They go for the Flare Blitz into my Chi-Yu, trying to get rid of the Beads of Ruin, but I live on 7! But it doesn't matter again! I live on 5 HP. So, a little background. The previous week, last week, I played a player who just top cut the Toronto Regionals, Ethan Trejo, who was using a team with Specs, Fluttermane, Tornadus, Iron Crown, and Indeedee, and some other supporting pieces. And as you can see, my opponent this week is using a very similar team to that Iron Crown, Indeedee, Fluttermane, Torn. This Fluttermane was also Specs. So I came up with a big game plan because I figured that's what my opponent was going to be bringing last week. And because they had just top cut a regional with it. Unfortunately, I barely wasn't able to win last week. But new week, new opponent, new team, new player who hasn't come fresh off a top cut at a regional. So I have a game plan. Funnily enough, you can see I am waiting in team preview for a bit, but I've got my Whimsicott and Chi-Yu as my lead. I know what I'm going to do in most situations on my turn 1. That's what I came up with in my game plan. A lot of VGC is so hard. A lot of my game plans come from, okay, these are the popular Pokemon, these are the popular leads. As I'm practicing, this is what people like to lead against me. And so I come up with a plan where my stats allow me to live whatever I'm going to live, and knock out what I need to knock out, and so on and so forth. So a lot of times these teams like to lead Tornadus and Fluttermane. A common theme in VGC you'll find is that a big attacker and a supporter or a utility piece like to be led together. So Tornadus, Fluttermane, they are choice specs. They do have Power Gem, and I apologize for it was a little laggy in my recording because I did run a couple of damage calculations during the match to make sure I was okay. First here, I was like, okay, that Fluttermane's got Power Gem on it. I know that I'm fine if I set up a light screen. I'll live a Power Gem and a Bleak Wind Storm with my Chi-Yu without needing to use my Terastallization and worry about them calling me Terastallizing to Ghost and firing off a Shadow Ball into me. So they are Covert Cloak on the Tornadus, but I decide just get my light screen up. I'll live whatever moves they dish out. We see their Fluttermane is moving first before their Tornadus, which does mean it's attacking this turn, not using a Prankster move. But they get a critical hit on my Whimsicott with Power Gem. That wasn't supposed to knock me out. But turn 1, I get hit by a big critical hit. My Snarl does not quite half to the Tornadus, which tells me that it is using some bulk because I know that my Specs Chi-Yu will knock out a no bulk Tornadus in 2 hits with Snarl. So it's a bulkier Tornadus. However, my Whimsicott does go down to the Power Gem. With beads, it doesn't because I still have light screen activated. I don't go down to a Specs Moonblast, honestly. But with the Beads of Ruin critical hit, my Chi-Yu or my Whimsicott does go down. So a little on the back foot. But if the Bleak Wind connects with my Whimsicott there afterward, it still knocks it out. So this is a realistic board state for a turn 2 with a little more help on my Chi-Yu in all actuality. But now I'm threatening a Beads of Ruin, Terra Electric, Thunderclap on either of these Pokemon would knock them out. So I have all of the pressure. My Whimsicott going down wasn't the end of the world. I don't get my speed control, but or my Tailwind speed control, but I do still have my Iron Bundle in the back. If I can wait out a Tailwind, I have that sort of speed control. I've got my light screen up. They've got a lot of special attackers. I anticipate their Fluttermane wouldn't want to risk staying in because the Terra Electric Thunderclap was putting on too much pressure. for one of their most important pieces. The fact that they bring in Incineroar here tells me that they most likely did not bring Indeedee. And I do have a lot of special attackers. This Incineroar is Assault Vested. So you can see I get a critical hit Snarl, which doesn't do much. The Snarl takes Tornadus down low. Thunderbolt takes Incineroar to be about in range of maybe another Thunderbolt. It looks like it's going to be close. So here I believe I run out of time on this turn and make a misplay. So what I'm trying to decide here is it worth it to not knock out either of my opponent's Pokemon on the board and burn a turn of Tailwind? And I think to myself, yeah, that sounds great. So if I Thunderclap the Incineroar, it will live. I burn one turn of Tailwind. The Tornadus probably protects anyway because they're worried about a Thunderclap. So I meant to click A there to swap in my bundle in my Chi-Yu slot, but I ran out of time. In a panic, I swap my Iron Bundle in here, and my Chi-Yu's locked into Snarl, so it doesn't matter that I didn't select on that spot. My Iron Bundle comes in here. They do go for a Bleak Wind Storm. It does a good chunk. Oh, you can't really see my health bar on my Iron Bundle. Let's fix that. Sorry, trying to find the optimal place for my face. So we're going to move it up here for now. So, and they end up knocking my Iron Bundle out upon switching. So the misclick really didn't help. Yo, Mikey VGC, hope you're doing well. Just reviewing my battle for USPA this week. We were fighting New Jersey. So, ran out of time, but honestly, my Raging Bolt is going to win this game for them. They didn't pivot their Incineroar, so they don't have Fake Out active. So, again, Beads of Ruin, Terra Electric, Thunderclap will knock out Flutter Mane. And I know that they probably know that, and they're going to switch Flutter Mane out and try to remove my Raging Bolt. At least my Assault Vest to try to get offensive pressure on it. Or knock out my Chi-Yu to eliminate the Beads of Ruin to allow their Flutter Mane to survive. So you can see here, I did just kind of instantly lock in Terra Electric Thunderbolt into that slot, thinking there's the Flutter Mane's not going to stay in. If they do stay in, like worst case scenario, they get a Moonblast into me. I've got a Light Screen up still. And I knock them out with Thunderbolt. So them switching is my best case scenario, honestly. So they switch, and I'm like, okay, they're probably going to try to knock out my Chi-Yu here, get rid of the Beads of Ruin, because that gives their Flutter Mane the best chance of surviving, and their Flutter Mane is the key to winning the battle. So, yep, Terra Electric. They go for the Flare Blitz into my Chi-Yu, trying to get rid of the Beads of Ruin, but I live on 7 HP, just barely hanging on. My Chi-Yu EV spread is goated. The Thunderbolt comes in to the Iron Crown. It lives on 1 HP. Their EV spread's goated, but then Snarl also knocks them out, leaving Incineroar on just 1 HP. Well, not 1 HP. That's probably 7 on their end of the field. But again, any attack going into that Incineroar will knock out at this point. I still have Beads of Ruin, Thunderclap, which will knock out the Flutter Mane. So my Raging Bolt just is putting on too much pressure for my opponent to have a chance. A big win for the Fish and Mr. Longneck with a light bulb on its head. Big win. So yep, I do just go for the Terra Electric Thunderclap. Again, Beads of Ruin, even if they've got, you know, they're a Specs Flutter Mane, so they're not bulky, but even if they're crazy and they are a bulky Specs Flutter Mane, they should still go down to it with all of the multipliers. They do go for the Terrassalization, knowing this is their best chance to try to, you know, survive this and get a big. Dazzling Gleam and Flare Blitz or Knockoff Crit. However, again, the Flutter Mane goes down. Raging Bolt's the best Pokemon in the format. Sorry, Flutter. And Incineroar gets a knockoff into Raging Bolt for about 35%. Good to know going into Game 2 how much that does. It does tell me that they are an Adamant Incineroar, likely, with a bit of an attack investment in it. Adamant 36, that's not an uncommon thing for an Assault Vest Incineroar to try to do. So, we win Game 1. Everything didn't go, perfectly. Again, our Whimsicott got crit turn 1, but it didn't matter, It didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, assuming Bleak Wind Storm follows up and knocks it out. The board state's basically the same. Our Chi-Yu lived the Flare Blitz, so it didn't. The extra Bleak Wind Storm damage didn't quite matter as well. So, again, all things considered, a little unlucky. It didn't really matter. So going into Game 2, I'm thinking, okay, it was pretty close, all things considered. I got a lot of turns right. The Flutter Mane switched and I went for Thunderbolt instead of Thunderclap. I got the Thunderclap turns right. So I'm thinking my opponent doesn't really have any incentive to switch it up. Annihilate in the team preview makes it really hard for them to lead Incineroar. That is notable about what I want my team to do. Whimsicott, Chi-Yu don't have a lot of offensive presence into Incineroar, especially Assault Vest Incineroar. But if I, can have Annihilate in my team preview to just disincentivize and intimidate in the lead, that is kind of what the conditioning of my team preview does. I've got Raging Bolt. I've got Annihilate. You want to use your Flutter Mane. Another common lead into me is Urshifu, which is another reason why I put that Raging Bolt first. So they do lead the same thing. Again, they're not super incentivized. I imagine they're gonna try to get more damage out. So this time I decide, okay, Game 1, they didn't switch in Incineroar. They saw the Snarl. There's really not much of a reason for them not to go all in with their Flutter Mane as much as possible. So I decide that I'm going to go all in on the Flutter Mane and go for my Specs Overheat. Chi-Yu Specs Overheat, it's gonna knock you out. Another thing they need to worry about for the Tornadus, let's say, so last game they went for just double attacking, right? Just calling my light screen. What I could have done is Tailwind overheated the Flutter Mane. So here, they probably see that. They're like, okay, if I'm going all in on the Flutter, I can't risk a Tailwind and losing my Flutter. So they just go for a big Dazzling Gleam. It does do a good amount of damage, but I am EV'd to live 2 of those behind a light screen, and the Overheat one-hit KOs the Flutter Mane. So already my opponent's burned their Terastallization. They use Tailwind on turn 1, so I can stagger my Tailwind to have a speed advantage in the end game. So again, turn 1, big win for me. Burned a lot of resources, put myself ahead. So here, I am totally fine, losing my Whimsicott. They can knock that out. I can get a Parting Tailwind. Chi-Yu, now that Flutter Mane is gone, really doesn't have anything stopping it from clicking its big moves. Iron Crown in the back is going to go down to any of my Chi-Yu's moves. They've used their Terastallization, so Chi-Yu, so Iron Crown really, if I can keep my speed advantage, Iron Crown isn't going to do anything. They didn't go for Fake Out here, knowing that to capitalize on the turn, they need to get the big damage. They do get a knockoff into my Raging Bolt. We know that does about 35, but they get a critical hit. So now I'm in danger of being knocked out to, a Flare Blitz if I Terastallize. I am less comfortable, committing to the Beads of Ruin Thunderclaps type of thing. So again, critical hit, not like super punishing, but it could come in into play in the end game. So here I'm like, well, Iron Bundle's got to come out. I've got my speed advantage. I can threaten a Terra Water Hydro Pump onto the Incineroar, or a Freeze Dry into the Tornadus. Again, neither of these can Terrastalize. I ran a quick calc here. Because they are Assault Vested Incineroar, I would need to Terrastalize, hit my Hydro Pump, and I would need to switch in my Beads of Ruin. So you can see I lock into it there. I'm going to switch my Chi-Yu into Beads of Ruin, but then I remember they have Sunny Day on their Tornadus, and so I think right here my better option is to spread the damage, get a Freeze Dry off into the Tornadus, and get a Thunderbolt off into the Incineroar. Oh, I went for a Thunderclap in case they got a critical hit knockoff into my Raging Bolt. Probably a misplay because they're not going to knock me out. Hey, Chaos Stars, how's it going? I'm just reviewing some games that I played yesterday. And so my Freeze Dry goes into the Tornadus. Again, we know it's bulky from game 1. And they go for a big Flare Blitz. Maybe I should have committed Terrastalization, but it doesn't matter again! I live on 5 HP. Another just clutch survival. My EVs are just the best. So now I'm like, okay, I have my Iron Bundle. They have Sun set up. My Raging Bolt can easily Thunderclap their Tornadus here, and I can, Hydro Pump the Incineroar or Protect. So I decide to make a crazy play. The sun is up, so Hydro Pump Terrastalize isn't going to knock them out. But if I switch in my Beads of Ruin on Chi-Yu, then the Hydro Pump Terrastalized Water will knock them out. I don't think that Tornadus is going to stay in, or, well, I don't think they're going to attack this turn, because again, the Thunderclap is too oppressive. This is their last turn of Tailwind. They want to preserve whatever speed control they can for the end game. So I feel really confident going all in on this play. I just have to hit a Hydro Pump with Iron Bundle, and that is easier said than done. The Tornadus does protect there, and we hit our Hydro Pump, so Incineroar should be going down a little less than 50%, but the Terra Water Beads of Ruin is enough, super effective, to take it out. Again, they couldn't Terrastalize because they Terrastalized the Flutter Mane on turn 1. In the back, we do see their Iron Crown, so they will be able to get up another Tailwind, and I have lost my Whimsicott, so I cannot get up a Tailwind, but Iron Bundle is so fast that even in Tailwind, it might outspeed this, Iron Crown, and I think that it actually has to outspeed the Iron Crown because they showed that they were modest special attack boosting booster energy set. So I should be able to outspeed them in Tailwind. They protected this turn, but my Icy Wind, they get their Tailwind back up. My Icy Wind connects and knocks out the Tornadus. That is enough, so I've got my Chi-Yu and my Raging Bolt in the back. Again, kind of low health. Maybe they can get this out if they, if I, miss some Hydro Pumps, and they have just enough juice to knock out my Chi-Yu and my Raging Bolt with their special attack booster moves. So here, I just decide getting some speed control is nice. No need to protect my Iron Bundle, because if they attack into Iron Bundle, that means they're not attacking into Chi-Yu, and a Choice Spec Snarl, super effective, is going to just knock it out. So I think there's no way they're not just attacking into Chi-Yu. We live again. We live again, and the Snarl knocks out Iron Crown, and we win the game. 2-0 against our opponent. Honestly, like, pretty close, all things considered, but the nature of these really aggressive teams are very explosive. You know, Iron Bundle Chi-Yu, I'm very fast. I'm Choice Specs, I'm very strong. They were Choice Specs Flutter. It's like, okay, the margins are thin. We're hitting each other with big sticks, and whoever barely lives is going to win the game. And we barely lived when it counted.